Good morning, guys. We're going to go ahead and check through the CFA today here. You guys all have a hard copy of this, so your job now is to be going through this with us, making sure you're writing answers and going through these processes again with us. So following along and making sure you've got the answers written here. Okay, first one, we're dealing with some adding of fractions. 3/4 plus 5/8. We know when we add fractions, we have to have a common denominator, and we use the multiples to find that. In this case, we used 8 for the least common multiple, so we simply changed 3/4 to 6/8 by taking the denominator and the numerator by 2, and remember that equals 1 with the identity property, so it stays the same value. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4, and when I add 6/8 plus the 5/8 I already had, I get 11/8, and that's an improper fraction. It's an okay answer, but we're going to work on getting that into simplest form. We know this can mean divide, so 11 divided by 8. And showed the work over here. We talk about dividing and making a V sometimes. So you'd get one full group and then 3 left out of another group of 8, which is 3/8. And some of you can do that mentally and just know that 8/8 is 1, and then you have 3/8 more, and that's fine too. But the best answer is 1 3/8. Same thing on number 2. We're going to just keep this in fractional form here. We're not going to make it improper, so we're going to take the fraction minus the fraction. Common denominator 1/2 can change to 2/4. So 3/4 minus 2/4 is 1/4, and I still have 2 wholes. So 2 1/4 would be the correct answer. You could also make them improper if you wanted to. We know that strategy, but we're just going to be showing one strategy here when we're going through the answers, and we can talk about other ways when we're finished here if you guys would like, and we'll practice some more. If you guys are struggling with any of these and want to practice some more afterward, we'll make sure we take a look at a few more. But right now, again, your job is just to be making sure you get the answers written down and going through the thinking processes. 3/4 times 3. We know when we multiply, we don't need a common denominator, and we can change 3 to 3/1. That's still 3, and then we can just multiply across. And we showed that this worked, and it works every time. So pretty simple algorithm here. If I multiply across, I get 9/4. And again, in simplest form, we can change that to 2 1/4 for our best answer there in the simplest form. And the other multiplying one, remember we can say the word of when we see multiply. I think I want 1/3 of 2/3, which means my answer should get smaller because I just want a part of it. And if I multiply across again, you'll get 2/9, and so that answer makes sense. Again, making sure you get these copied down, please. On the division, we know, again, here, this case, we want to understand the problem. We've got 1/3 divided into groups of 5, and we should be thinking we can't get a whole group of 5, I can just get a part of one. So this problem, we should have a small answer. Again, making sure you understand what's actually going on here. So I'm going to use the reciprocal process this time. We always start with 1/3, remember, so it stays the same. We can change divide into multiply and flip to its reciprocal and flip the numerator and denominator. And if I do that, I'm just changing that to 1/3 times 1/5, and I get 1/15. So my answer makes sense. I can't get a full group of 5, but I can get a part of one. So 1/15 would be our answer there. And on the second one, these typically we find to be a little bit easier. We can do a lot of them mentally by saying it backwards. And remember, we're thinking we're making groups of 1/3 here, so how many 1/3s make 5? And in this case, 3/3 makes 1. If I do that 5 times, that's 15 of those. So 15 would be the correct answer. I also showed the reciprocal. When you change it to times and flip, simply becomes 5 times 3. And I can get 15, and that answer makes sense because I can get a lot of 1/3s out of 5. So my answer got bigger than 5 because I've got small groups I'm making. Okay, so again, double check you've got all these written down. And again, we can work some more if you have some questions on things when we get done. We'll go to the review group here with some of us that need to review some of these things. Okay, and flip to the back. Take a look at these here. All right, looking at the first one, going into our PEMDAS stuff here, our order of operations. We know we do parentheses first. So here I would simply take 5 plus 2 and get 7. I like to cross out the work as I do it and show my steps and rewrite, kind of make that upside down triangle shape. Rewrite 3 times 7 is what it becomes, and so the answer is 21. And we follow the same process on the second one. Again, if there's brackets, it looks a little funny, but those are just like parentheses. And you do the parentheses within the brackets first, so 7 minus 2 is 5. And rewrite. So you've got 2 times 5, then times 3 outside the brackets. Again, you could use parentheses here. Brackets doesn't matter, it just means to do it next. So 2 times 5 becomes 10. So I'm left with 10 times 3, which is 30. Again, making sure we really understand. Parentheses come first is what our area of focus has been. Again, staying organized is important, doing one step at a time. Next row, we're just multiplying whole numbers here. I'm going to use just the traditional. I know some of you use partial products, and that's okay, but we're trying to really focus on the traditional way to do things. So I have 412 4 times, and remember traditionally I just take the 4 times every place value column. So 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. So you end up with 1,648, which makes sense because if I estimated 404 times is 1,600, so I know my answer makes sense. With double digit multiplication here, again you're doing 12 23 times. Traditionally, remember, this means we're taking the 12 times the 3, and that's what's in the first row, and then the 12 times 20, and that's what's in the second row. So some people, like to just look at it that way as 2 separate problems. Just got to remember this is a 20 because we're in the tens column. But really, that's what we're doing here in the traditional way anyway. So if we're taking 12 times 3, we can just ignore the 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3. And then in the second row, we're thinking 12 times 20 here. Some people like to cross this out. Don't forget to put your 0 here because remember that multiplies it by 10 because I bumped it over a place value. So I've already taken it times 10 by just moving over. Now I just need to take it times 2, and I've taken it times 20 like I'm supposed to. So 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2, so 12 times 20 ended up 240. And if I add those up, I get 276. Again, we're really working on that traditional, so make sure you're writing your work there, and you have a place to reference here and look at when you're studying for your test when we have those, and we'll use those, use these to really help us review for tests when we get into our 6th grade stuff. And the last 2 today, dividing. Traditionally here, that does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers. Divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down. I'm taking 357, dividing into groups of 7, so I can get quite a few groups of 7. And remember, we like to cover it up, do one step at a time. I can't get a group of 7 out of 3, so we can put an X there. But if I have 35, I can get a group of 7. I know I can get 5. Then we bring that down, we get 35, not bring it down, but with 7 times 5 is 35 for our multiply step. Subtract, we have 0 left. Now we bring down the 7. Don't forget to check that this is less than that, because if it wasn't less than that, remember we would need more groups up here. So remember to use that check step. Once I bring down, I know I have to go and do the whole process over again. So I have 7. How many groups of 7 can I get? I can get 1. And we end up with 51 groups of 7 that we can get in that problem there. So the answer is 51. Again, really practicing our traditional here since we'll be focusing on that in 6th grade. Double digit, same process here again, kind of showing all of my work for you. Make sure you get this written down. But in this case, remember if we have 2 digits, then we automatically look to the first 2 digits. In this case, I can get 3 groups of 11 out of 35 because that's 33 when I multiply. Subtract, I get 2. Which is less than 11. It was a good guess. So I bring down my 7. Remember, one thing at a time. So I start over. I've got 27. How many groups of 11 can I get? Well, I can get 2 because that's 22. Subtract to get 5, and that's less than 11, so it was a good guess. And we can bring down the 5. We're left with 55, and then I know I can get 5 groups of 55, 5 groups of 11 because that is 55, and I have no remainder. Okay, so again, making sure you're getting this written down. Those of you that have missed some of these or have questions on these, we will do a little more reviewing here so you guys can get some more practice and ask questions. Okay, so make sure you wrap up getting those written, and we'll move on here shortly.